So welcome everyone. My name is Becky Dale. I think most of you have been here before, but if you're here for the first time, we welcome you too. And we generally start out with a breathing exercise together. Then we go into a practice that today I'm excited to have Drake Powe leading again on the practice time. And then we have some time where we have conversation. We actually recently did a survey, and from the survey I learned that some people love the conversation and some people don't really care for the conversation. And it's totally fine to leave before the conversation if that's not your thing. And yet we also are working on building community and connecting with one another at a time when that can be harder. So we certainly welcome you to stay for small groups. And then we come back from the small groups and close with a closing breath again. So I'm leading the opening breath today, and I just invite everybody to straighten your spine if it isn't already, and feel your feet on the ground and your sitting bones on the seat if you're sitting. Notice if there are any spots in your body that want to be just move a little bit to adjust so that you can invite your arms and legs to relax. And then I'm going to invite you to just, as you breathe in, imagine that you are like a tree pulling nutrients and water and energy from the earth. And as you breathe out, you're sending back to the earth whatever you don't need anymore for it to recycle and reuse. So each time you breathe in, drawing water, drawing energy, drawing nutrients up through your feet, through your legs, through your torso, all the way up to the top of your head and the tips of your fingers. And then as you breathe out, releasing whatever you don't need anymore back into the earth. And just do that a couple of times and keep it nice and easy. Don't feel like you have to like stress at the top, fill it too full. Just whatever the breath wants and the body wants. And then maybe one more time, and at the end of that time, just allow all that isn't needed anymore to just fall away. And then return to your attention and your breath to normal breathing and your attention to the room. Sometimes when I do this breathing exercise, I actually imagine I have roots going deep into the earth too, that can help add an added layer of grounding. I love trees, so imagining being a tree works for me in terms of like settling and grounding and weathering whatever is happening around. So the quote I would like to share today before handing it off to Drake is a short one. It's a proverb. Don't know where it came from. Just found it in one of my planner books. Just when the caterpillar thought the world was ending, she turned into a butterfly. And with that, I will hand it over to Drake.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you folks again. I love everything you just expressed there. I'm going to start right off the bat with ringing the bell. So I'm going to ring the bell. I'm going to ask you to listen just very carefully. Here we go. So I would ask you now to take a nice deep breath in with me and make the ah sound. Okay, that was good. I'm gonna ask you to do that one more time because I really want to see everyone, the mouth has to open, make that, let it out. Ah, so here we go, inhale. Ah. Okay, beautiful. So thank you so much again for having me here again. And I'm so excited to have this opportunity to sit with you powerful people, and to connect with the idea that we can change the world. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? Don't you think the world needs some changing? Well, that's how powerful we are. And, what I'm suggesting is don't sell yourself short. So if you're interested, in the mornings on my YouTube station, which is called Touching the Edge, I put up a video every morning for 40 days. In the evening on my website, which is Powe.com, I put up a blog post on there every evening for the 40 days. I think today's 19th day. And so I'm bringing this up because I believe it last night, I'm doing a lot of this stuff. I wrote a piece that I called Colossus. When in the play Julius Caesar, that's how Julius Caesar is described. He strides forth like a colossus, a man amongst men. Sometimes Jewish people will call a man like that a mensch, somebody who is really, a boss, really good and powerful. And I'm suggesting that's what all of us are. We are a colossus, but we can't be that if we sell ourselves short. And so I want to touch base on resilience. And by the way, should you have a question in the course of this conversation, we'll weave the conversation, but I'm very interested in what you have to say. It's important this to be a sharing process. And we'll be talking about resilience and methods for stimulating resilience. So be comfortable interjecting if you feel the need. So now, again, focusing on the term resilience, what does it mean and why is it a good thing? Well, it's good to look at the roots of words. Resilience, most people think of resilience as a positive thing. It can be a negative thing if you're resiliently doing some negative pattern. But the actual word resilience means to do again, zilliance, which is to notice excellence that other people miss. This is the essence of resilience. It's about being present and noticing subtle details that other people miss. When you have the ability to notice subtlety in the midst of intensity, that's called being in charge of your life. When you cannot be aware of subtlety in the midst of intensity, that's called being up at 3 o'clock in the morning and not being able to stop thinking. I would suggest that the one is a lot more fun than the other. And, it's really important that we come about this process of developing resilience. It's not like eating soda crackers. It's all dry and unpleasant. It's the opposite. Resilience is fun. It's joyous. Resilience is drawing in cosmic energy, solar energy. So we want to understand that to be resilient, you have to be present. If you're not present, you're running off of battery power. Okay? If you're not present, it's like driving your car and the alternator goes out. You can keep starting the car for a while, and you can run the headlights for a while, but pretty soon the battery runs down so low that it cannot start the car anymore. If you get it low enough, it won't even receive a jump. Okay, so that what I'm describing is what I call existential fatigue. That's when we lose our resilience. And existential fatigue is a process that is about the disappointments that you have gone through over the course of a whole life. Everybody you see here is dealing with the trauma of childhood. Okay, I grew up during the time of like the Brady Bunches. I was like, man, everybody else got it good. As I grew up, I realized that no, that's all of us. That was a facade. Even those people didn't have fun childhoods. The ones who were portraying it. So we have to intend it in order to receive it. If you want to be resilient, you have to want to be resilient. In order to want to, you have to want what you really want. If you want to be resilient, you have to understand that you have desires that are at cross purposes, right? So part of being resilient is learning how to not care so much. Doesn't that sound weird? I'm suggesting maybe we start caring so much. First of all, if you were a group that didn't seem to be compassionate, that might not be what I would say. Okay, but what I'm suggesting is, and even in other groups, even with people who we don't think of as being compassionate at all, the truth is they care so much that they're afraid that they begin to become reactive from that fear. So what we do by dropping it down in order to become resilient, by paying attention to subtle details and heightening them, what happens is the things that are really important to us begin to drop. And then all of a sudden we end up in equanimity. And we end up in calm. And we understand that if you want things to work out, learn how to not be so worried that they won't work out. Right? So, let's open up the conversation for a moment before we do a little bit of practice. Tell me, is what I'm saying makes sense to you? And if it's okay, I would really like every person involved to, chime in. If it's not okay for you, perfectly fine. But if it works for you, express what resilience means to you and how you're doing in relationship to it. So, anyone at all? Sarah, you want to start us? What is your sense of resilience? What does it mean for you, and how are you doing with it, or how are you feeling about being resilient? Wants to be afraid, and that's a tough thing, because and you can tell if you want to feel it by how quickly you jump on the news in the morning. Do you really think something changed that much overnight? What I'm saying is that if we want resilience, we have to actually want it. We have to really intend it. And we have to understand why it's needed. So when you are resilient, you're closer to your true values. That's why you're resilient. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Anyone else, can you volunteer some statements about resilience, please? And the difference between the strength of an oak and the strength of a willow. It's great to be that oak tree, but those bad boys snap sometimes, okay? I'm suggesting strength that has that fluidity. You know what I mean? It's just like, when you talk about, sometimes I talk about foundational beams. When you live in an area that has a lot of issues with earthquakes, they make those so that they have a little bit more give to them. And that's part of what we want to do. And that happens with that, grace is also about making things look easy. We don't have to take things quite as hard. Remember to take the better of two witnesses. You have your two spectrums. This is your range of how you feel. Sometimes you feel not that great or maybe bad, and sometimes you feel really good. You want to tend towards the better witness. If there's a crisis, you don't want to be the one saying, we got no chance. You want to be on that better side. So thank you very much. Can we get anyone else to express anything they'd like to say about resilience? And then I'll take you through a very brief practice. If there's an accurate assessment of what you're capable of. It doesn't mean having an overblown assessment. If you are going to be, say, Michael Jordan, well, in order for you to accomplish what you need to accomplish, you have to feel like the best basketball player in the world. So that's not a lack of humility. What becomes a lack of humility is when you have contraction, when you identify yourself as a separate self, and you have fracturing that occurs with that, and tribalism that occurs with that. And then all of a sudden you're just bragging about yourself as superior to everyone else. So to be a true colossus is to recognize that everybody else is a colossus too. You don't have to have a giant with a whole bunch of Lilliputians. I think that's what they used to say with the term, Gulliver's Travels, right? To be a giant is to have a win-win situation. So that's part of how I would suggest it. And the other element I want to touch base on about that element of being colossus is understanding that if you want resilience, you have to understand how big you are. You are not this tiny little body. You are not this drama that's going on. You're not your drama. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. And you're not your sense of self. You are something beyond that. When you recognize your size, it changes everything. I have this book, by the way, and this is a great book. This is the Book of Runes, by the way. It's a great book. I have this book. If it's a great book, but if I have it here, it's going to be real tough for me to get around. So what I'm saying is, and I'm talking about all the losses that occur in life. I'm talking about someone passing away. A lot of this is simply understanding that everything is about learning how to deal with death. Learning how to, and I'm not just talking about the big death, I'm talking about transitioning from stage to stage of our life. I had someone say to me recently, I was walking with my daughter, she's 12 years old. She said, I love it when I see a grandfather walking with his daughter or with his granddaughter. I was like, thank you. My daughter loved it. My daughter loved it. But, to be a colossus is to recognize you are bigger than all this. And that allows you to still have it going on, but not be stuck with it. So thank you. Does that answer the question at all? Or?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any questions or statements before we go on with just a little bit of practice? So number one, I would like to suggest to you that you really begin to intend two basic elements: learning how to self-soothe and understanding that you need a customized process. Even if you had an identical twin, they couldn't use the exact same process as you, just like you couldn't wear the same shoes. So intend a gravitational pull that grounds you, and intend manifestation practice. Manifestation practice is realizing what types of thoughts are attractive and what do they attract. Okay, understand that your consciousness, so you have awareness and consciousness. Your consciousness is everything you know that is true. It's the computer. I'm telling you what, there's some sites I don't want to go to. If we don't have control over the computer, it's going to take us to where we don't want to be. So let's do some practice. Now, I want to talk about nonlinear de-escalation very quickly. Now, nonlinear de-escalation, and I highly suggest that you develop a template of de-escalation, because we're living in a time where you can run into a conflict and run any corner that you turn around. People are upset about politics, and people are upset about COVID, right? People are questioning each other's behavior all the time. So understand, and most of what's going on is contraction, is people wanting to be aggressively critiquing someone else. I find it interesting that so often we don't focus on changing our own life. And that is where the point of power is. So be aware that when you need to de-escalate someone, the first person you need to de-escalate is you. If you don't get de-escalated first, you're just throwing gasoline on a fire. Okay, if you think that you're really trying to create change by calling somebody stupid, I just need to tell you, people don't change because you call them stupid. That is not an effective way of getting through to somebody. A nonlinear de-escalation is, instead of making this frontal assault, you come around and you come to the backside and you find a way that makes peace, that doesn't assault that delusion. And we have a lot of delusion going on. And by the way, don't assume you're not one who's delusional. Anybody who's delusional always thinks they're the one who's not delusional. Okay, I just want to say. Now, be aware that part of having a nonlinear de-escalation for yourself is understanding the relationship you have with your jaws. Your jaws tell you the truth. If you pay attention, they're always telling you. They're always speaking to you. If you have an issue with clenching your jaws, you have an issue with not de-escalating yourself. And we all have an issue with clenching our jaws. Your jaws are telling you the truth. They are not lying. Your jaws, you have to learn to, on a regular basis, send that message to your jaws to release. Your jaws, when you release your jaws, it changes the relationship to your face, your shoulders, and most importantly, understand that when your jaws are clenched, you also have a closed heart. When your jaws are clenched, it's a statement of feeling like you are afraid and you have to really force something. Clenched jaws and clenched fists go together. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, do you have any questions or statements before I take you through this very brief guided meditation? All right, so sit now, be aware of your body, and if you're comfortable with it, you can have your eyes open or closed. If you have your eyes open, just drop your eyes and have a soft vision. Just breathing and bring the chest up slightly, just a smidgen, and notice how that changes things. Breathing nice and easily, stepping into intention, and as you exhale, send out the intention. The intention is not a wish, something more powerful. Allow yourself to relax, and center that intention right in your jaws, breathing nice and easily. And as you exhale, begin to relax your jaws. Breathing nice and easily. As you exhale, begin to relax your jaws. I'm going to ask you to take a nice deep breath in with me and make a big yawn. And let the breathing come back to normal, and send the message to your shoulders and hands, relax, and notice the difference in your jaws. When you yawn, that's an invitation for your jaws to relax. Breathe. That's part of the main thing that yawning does. Now be aware of your jaws relaxing and feel how it changes your face. Your lips are softer. Your eyes lose some of the strain and stress. The brow point smooths out, and the center of your forehead begins to open up. Breathing nice and easily. Feel the relationship between the jaws and the fists. Relax your jaws and your fists at the exact same time. Now remember that relaxed jaws and fists helps to open the heart, breathing nice and easily. Feel your heart opening. You can't receive or give love without an open heart. Breathing nice and easily. Let's take an easy breath in and an easy sigh. Let the breathing come back to normal. Eyes opening. Okay. Now, the moment after a practice is one of the most important times of practice. If you don't feel the aftermath, if you don't feel the afterglow, you haven't fulfilled the practice completely. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say about that practice before I let you go on with your meeting? Okay, so I want to suggest to you how unbelievably powerful you are, but you can't play small in order to be powerful. If you're not present, you're going to be trying to force things rather than come into power. Power flows through you. So I'm going to ring the bell, and remember, please do this. Check out my YouTube channel in the morning, Touching the Edge on YouTube, Touching the Edge. I put up a video by 9 o'clock every morning, or right around then. And at night, check out Powe.com, Powe.com. I put up a short blog post. And so people who are working with me are gradually building a grounding process that peaks on the 40th day. It's about kindness. It's not about becoming someone entirely different. So check it out. And if you know someone who's struggling, let them know. I'm going to ring the bell. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to bring my hands in a prayer position, and I bow to you because you are a leader for all of us. Namaste. Thank you for your time. You're always welcome to contact me. I'm like a comic who tells the same joke all the time, but it's a good joke, though. So take care, guys. Have a great day, okay?
Thank you, Drake. And I put Drake's YouTube and his website in the chat. So if anybody's looking for those, you should be able to just copy them out of the chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Drake.
Thank you.
And we'll just end with our regular ending. We'll pause for a moment and take a deep breath. We are all connected, and we will get through this together. If anybody wants to hang out for a minute to chat, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, we will see you next week.